The town of Riverside had always been a quiet place. Nestled between rolling hills and a wide silver river, it was the kind of town where neighbors greeted each other by name, where shopkeepers smiled at every customer, and where the sound of children playing in the park carried softly in the evening air. But like every peaceful place, Riverside had its shadows. In recent months, trouble had begun to stir. A group of outsiders had arrived, loud, reckless men who believed strength was measured only by numbers. They moved together like a swarm, 100 in total, and wherever they went, silence followed. People shut their windows when they passed, shop doors locked early, and the laughter of the children faded into nervous whispers. At the edge of this troubled town lived a man named Daniel Carter. He was not young, but his body carried the memory of discipline. He had once been a student of Kung Fu, trained under masters who valued balance, patience, and humility above all else. Daniel lived alone in a small wooden house with a porch facing the river. He lived quietly, teaching children in the community simple breathing exercises and stretches, never speaking of the skills he carried in his bones. One afternoon, Daniel walked through the town square. He saw the faces of his neighbors, fear written in their eyes. The group of 100 had gathered again, shouting, kicking over crates, and mocking anyone who dared to look their way. Among them, a tall man with a scar across his cheek called out, "No one here can stop us. This town belongs to us now." Daniel paused, his calm gaze resting on the crowd. He knew violence could not solve every problem, yet he also knew silence, left unchecked, could turn into chains of fear. That evening, a few townsfolk came to his porch. Among them was Sarah Miller, a teacher from the local school, and John Harris, the baker. Their voices trembled as they spoke. "Daniel," Sarah said softly, "the children are too scared to come to school. Parents keep them at home. We don't know what to do." John added, "You've trained in ways we can't understand. If anyone can face them, it's you." Daniel's eyes lowered. He had promised himself years ago never to fight again, not unless it was to protect life itself. The memories of past battles still weighed heavy on his heart. But now, as he looked at his neighbors, he realized this was not about pride or proving strength. This was about giving his people a chance to breathe freely again. The next morning, word spread quickly. Daniel Carter had agreed to face the 100 men. He had sent a message, simple and direct: "Meet me at the old mill yard, tomorrow at dawn." The town held its breath. Some thought he was mad. Others prayed silently. Children, though afraid, whispered of him as though he were a character out of legend. When dawn came, a soft mist hung over the mill yard. The wide space, once filled with the sound of grinding stone and rushing water, was now silent, except for the river murmuring nearby. Daniel stood at the center, wearing a plain gray robe, his hands folded calmly before him. His breathing was steady, his eyes clear. Then, like thunder rolling across the earth, they arrived. 100 men, their boots striking the ground, their voices rising in laughter and challenge. They formed a wide circle around Daniel, their numbers so great it seemed the earth itself might tilt under their weight. The scarred leader stepped forward. "Old man," he sneered, "you think you can face all of us?" Daniel did not raise his voice. "This is not about pride. This is about peace. Leave this town, and no one needs to suffer." Laughter erupted, rough and cruel. The leader gave a sharp signal, and the men surged forward. What followed seemed less like a battle and more like a dance. Daniel moved with precision, each step flowing into the next, as though his body was guided by the rhythm of the earth itself. He did not strike in anger, only in control. A hand redirected a punch, sending an attacker stumbling into two others. A swift kick swept through the air, not to destroy but to break the chain of violence long enough for another breath of calm. One man rushed at him with a wooden plank. Daniel bent low, his palm pressing against the ground, and the man toppled over his shoulder into the dust. Another tried to grab him from behind, but Daniel turned with the grace of water, his elbow nudging the man aside without pause. The people of Riverside, who had gathered at a safe distance, watched in awe. They saw not cruelty, but balance. They saw strength without hatred. The fight stretched on. 10 men, then 20, then 30 fell away, groaning, too tired or too dazed to rise again. Still, Daniel's breath did not falter. His movements were not rushed. Every motion carried patience, as though time itself had slowed to match his rhythm. And then, something shifted. The scarred leader, watching his men fall one by one, felt his pride burning hotter than reason. He charged at Daniel himself, fists swinging wildly. Unlike the others, he carried no hesitation, only fury. Daniel stepped back, letting the storm pass. But the leader kept coming, his strength fueled by rage. At last, Daniel stopped moving. He raised his hands, open, and allowed the man to come close. In that moment, Daniel's voice cut through the chaos, calm yet sharp as a bell. Strength without wisdom is weakness. Anger without purpose is emptiness. He caught the leader's arm, turned his body, and gently but firmly pressed him into the ground. The man gasped, pinned not by force but by balance, as though the earth itself held him still. Silence fell. The remaining men, who had once seemed like a wall of iron, now looked uncertain, almost fragile. One by one, they lowered their eyes. The fight drained from them like water from a cracked jar. Daniel released the leader and stepped back. His robe was dusty, his hair damp with sweat, but his gaze remained steady. "Go," he said softly. "Leave this place. Do not return." The leader, humbled, nodded. Slowly, the 100 men gathered themselves and retreated, their footsteps fading into the morning mist. The townspeople rushed forward. Children who had once hidden behind their parents now ran freely across the yard. Sarah placed a hand over her heart, whispering, "He faced them all, and he never once lost himself." Daniel gave a faint smile. Kung Fu is not about defeating others. It is about defeating fear. If you hold peace inside you, no number can take it away. In the days that followed, Riverside returned to its quiet rhythm. The shops stayed open late again. The schoolyard filled with laughter. And though Daniel returned to his porch by the river, living as simply as before, the people carried his lesson in their hearts. They understood now that true strength was not about power or numbers. It was about balance, patience, and the courage to stand when standing was needed most. And so, the legend of the Kung Fu master who faced 100 men was not told as a story of violence, but as a story of peace. A story that reminded everyone, sometimes, one calm heart can guide 100 restless ones.